one of the phrases we use is take ground. Like, how can you use AI to take ground? New
Take ground. I
services,
like that.
new offerings. That possibility exists right now, where people can say, "Oh, I'm entering a new market that I wouldn't have thought I could because I have unique expertise coupled with AI for efficiency gives me the opportunity to bring this new capability out."
Welcome to Embracing Digital Transformation, where we investigate effective change leveraging people, process, and technology. This is Darren Pulsford, Chief Solution Architect, author, and most importantly, your host. On this episode, stop wasting money on Gen AI. Instead, start leveraging it for real business value. With special guest Andrew Brooks, CEO of Contextual.io. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
This is a really hot topic because Gen AI is changing the world. So productizing or moving into production is a big deal. And I'm really excited to dive into this topic and some of the learnings that you bring. But before we do that, everyone knows on my show, I only have superheroes. And every superhero has a background story. So Andrew, what's your background story?
Gosh, well, I'll hit a couple things. Number one, I've built and sold a couple of technology companies. If you happen to have a Samsung SmartThings device, meaning a Samsung TV or fridge or washing machine, I was one of the co-founders of SmartThings. So if you love it, then you're welcome. If you don't love it, I apologize. But
I love it,
that's kind of
Andrew. I love it.
yeah.
It's a great tool. So way to go.
Yeah, that's that one. Superhero activity I've engaged in. I was one of the first folks, kind of top 100 folks, to finish what's called the World Marathon Challenge, which is you run a marathon on all 7 continents in 7 days. So starting in Antarctica, South Africa, Australia, Asia, boom, 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 7 days, and banged out 7 marathons.
Okay, wait. That's not a superhero. That's crazy stuff. That is
I got a
amazing.
little
How do you
bug.
run?
Yeah.
Wait. We got to back up and say, how do you run a
Yeah.
marathon in Antarctica?
So there's a Russian research station where they land these planes on basically an ice airfield. And you got off the plane and you started running. And what was fascinating there is when you're running into the sun, it's actually quite warm. The sun is hitting the ice and it's bouncing off you. And then you turn and you're running away and you're freezing because it's actually quite cold out. And so you run around this maybe 6 loops around a 4 mile airfield just around the ice. And then when you're done, you go into they basically live in shipping containers is what it is. You go into one of the
Uh-huh.
shipping containers and there's some individual who speaks Russian who's serving food and is like, do you want, just pointing, do you want some of that? You've just run a marathon. So you're like, yeah, I'll take whatever. I'll
Whatever
take
it
it all.
is, right?
Exactly.
Oh,
So
gosh.
yeah, so that's how you do it.
And then you hop on an airplane and you're to South Africa.
Back to South Africa. So, first marathon, 5 degree temperatures. Next marathon, it was like 85 degrees in South Africa in Cape Town. So, a little bit of a juxtaposition between those experiences.
And you do it in 7 actual days, or there's some
You do,
time in between.
nope, 7 days. As soon as you're done, you're back to the airport. You hop on the jet. They take you to the next place, and on and on and on.
Man alive. So, gosh, there's so many questions around that. Fluids, you got to have fluids. I mean, yeah, obviously, you guys are under some health
There's a doctor
guidance
on there.
there.
Yeah, there's a doctor on the plane to just kind of make sure people aren't dehydrating. People were getting IVs in the back of the plane who were
Oh,
struggling
yeah,
a
I
little
bet.
bit. My big problem is I tend to stop eating solids during the marathon. I moved to just drinking Gatorades, and that's not the best way. When you have to do 7 of them, you got to keep your calories up. And they did not have. It was kind of not marathon specific food on the plane. It's like, here's your fish dinner. And it's like, I don't know that that's what I want. Do you have any pasta?
Yeah, give me as much pasta as you can give me.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow, Andrew, it's amazing, right? I mean,
It was very
I've
cool.
had
It was
some
cool to
I've
do.
had some really cool guests on the show. I had a guy that climbed Everest.
Nice. Nice.
I've
Yeah.
had three opera singers now on the show. They didn't sing for me though. And now I've got one of the And you guys have a special name, right?
There's a World Marathon Challenge Club, and there's like some badges that I have sitting on my wall over here. So yeah,
That is so cool.
yeah,
Hopefully, our listeners appreciate that. We'll see. Send me some pictures. I'll put them up on the website. We'll make sure we add them to the
perfect.
video
We'll
here.
we'll get one from Antarctica so you can kind of see what that was
Yeah,
like.
that'd be so cool. All right, so Andrew, even though I'd love to talk for the next half hour about that,
Yeah.
my audience really wants to hear also about. Hey, you've been through some of these technology shifts with smart things. You were early on the IoT mobile space.
Yep.
Um, Gen AI is a little bit different, don't you think?
It absolutely is. Perhaps most critically because unlike some of these prior technology shifts where it was like, okay, you're a small business and you do not have a website. You need to have a website. You can get a website, and the website's going to do the thing you expect. It's going to convey the information that you put on that. Your phone number is not going to change. Your address isn't going to change. These are things that you're presenting. Or if, with smart things, if we built a mobile app that you pressed a button, yeah, your lights should turn on, and
Right.
your lights would
Yeah.
turn on. Gen AI is different in that it's not entirely it's not entirely fixed. It's not entirely predictable in terms of how it's going to take on the task that you give it. And so that kind of manifests in a couple of ways from our perspective. One is discomfort for companies, right? Like, can I
A
trust
lot of
this? Is it gonna,
discomfort.
yeah, is it gonna do something that I don't expect? How much control can I give it? How much autonomy can I give it? Is it causing more harm and more work than actually the efficiencies that I would want? And so it's the power is unbelievable, but that small difference from previous technologies, where at least it was kind of an understandable and predictable outcome, has really changed the landscape from my perspective.
Well, and you mentioned something else. I mean, we're seeing Gen AI being used for things no one even thought of.
For sure. Yeah.
So it's even a more profound technology shift than maybe even in the 90s with the dot com boom. Even though that was profound too. I mean, who would have ever thought e-commerce? No one, right? In fact, I
Certainly not
remember
the
my wife at the time
pets.com.
said,
Yeah.
"Why would I ever get on the internet?" And Amazon shows up to my house several times a day now,
Of
right?
course. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks to Contextual IO for sponsoring this episode. Contextual delivers high ROI answers for businesses of all sizes. They do this by combining powerful workflow orchestration and automation platform with a bunch of pre-built solution patterns and expertise to help take your AI project from POC to actual value.
People think of Gen AI as ChatGPT right now. They think of, oh, I go and ask it a
Of
question,
course.
it spits out an answer. Maybe they have a perception that AI is, a chat bot that they're experiencing on a website that is frustrating them because they actually want to talk to a human and get something solved, right? So some of the perceptions of what it is are, I think, a little misdirected. We tend to work with companies who are trying to find AI solutions that are, process, task, operations, back office stuff, invoice processing, looking at pictures of work orders, identifying if, quality of work is going off, all these other ways than just like write me a haiku about pickles, that somebody might do with ChatGPT. That's the reality is that it's a very strong tool for intelligence, but it's no different than having an intelligent human. You have to think about what is the role it's playing, what information does it have, and how is it affecting change in its world.
Well, I think there's one fundamental difference with Gen AI than what the other tools that we've had in the past, and you already mentioned it. It's like having a human in there, because for the
Correct. Yeah,
first time in our history, I don't need a computer scientist to talk to a computer,
for sure.
right? Which is a big, huge change, right? Because even people say, well, yeah, Darren, but we've had Google and I could do a Google search. Yeah, there was a computer scientist that wrote search algorithms, and even really good search prompts in Google were an art, something you had to learn.
Absolutely.
And the way that you
Yeah.
talk to a computer was very different. Now it's human language is our interface, right, to
Yeah.
a
I,
computer. And
yeah.
and our human language is not a great communication technique for exactness,
Correct.
right?
Well, and you kind of nailed an interesting point there, right? You could watch people 5 years ago and see the difference between somebody who was good at searching, right? They knew what
Right.
actually they needed to type into the search bar, the critical things, and then good at scanning results, right? Like, okay, is this it? Is this it? Is this it? Click, and that's the thing I want. That was a skill that you had to apply, and now anyone who can phrase a question even poorly, the AI can understand what are you seeking, what are you trying to get,
Right.
but then a few things happen. It might be verbose in its response to you, and therefore you got to consume a lot of information to actually get to the point that it's trying to
Like
make.
Claude, for example.
Right, for sure. I mean, we a lot of our work is zip it, quiet down, just
Zip
do
it
the thing I
quiet.
asked
Yeah,
you to do.
exactly.
Um, so and I think that's exactly right. And for us as systems developers, the extension of that is for the first time you don't necessarily have to write. You're not writing code. You're not writing formulas. You're not writing prescriptive business logic to get an outcome. You're just asking this thing to do. Like I don't have to tell an AI how to categorize or do regex searching on fields to say,
Right.
what is this? Is this in this one of these five categories? Or you tell me what the categories are. So
Yeah, it to me it's a
changes.
very strange, it's like a new processor that I can use to do things that before I would have to write several hundred lines of code or thousands of
For
lines of
sure.
code to interpret data. Now, it's so I think it's opening up a lot of new things around specifically business automation
Yeah,
and making me actually rethink some of my processes
for
because
sure. Yeah.
the processes that we have there a lot of times were created because of the limitations of the tools or the people working with the tools and that interface between them. Because of those limitations, I have process that was there to handle
Yes.
and manage those limitations. Some of those limitations are gone.
Absolutely. I mean, just a few years ago, we were working with a landscaping company, and they would get tickets from their clients saying, "Hey, the tree branch is hanging down. I can you trim it?" And that was basically using a bunch of regex patterns that were written in code to try to figure out what is this person asking us to do? Is it an emergency? A tree branch hanging down might not
Yeah,
be, but a
maybe
tree
not.
branch it blocking
The road?
the handicapped parking spot is right. Like so you would try to interpret this stuff. All of that code, to your point, hundreds, maybe thousands of lines of code goes away. Where I can now just say what I'm concerned about is what is this thing? How severe is it? How much? How should I take action against it? Those three prompts, and you get the answers back that you want.
So with all this new tool that we have, some of the fundamental software engineering techniques and not just software engineering but product development techniques need to
Yeah,
come into play because right now I think you may even have the statistics. There's new ones that just came out this week. How many Gen AI or AI projects fail to go production
yeah,
from POC to production? The number is dismal.
yes. I think that's the we all know the hype cycle and adoption curve, and
Right.
maybe we're maybe we're on the backside of the hype cycle, and we're in some disillusionment right now. But to me, that represents the opportunity, right? Where
Oh yeah.
now is not the time to be fearful. Certainly, it's the time to understand why did they fail, right? What was the expectation versus the outcome? Was an ROI measurement kind of built into the story from the beginning, or was this just more it's cool and it's a science experiment or a parlor trick? That's part of good stewardship of new technologies.
Well, and I think you hit it right on the nose. It's the parlor trick, right?
Yeah,
How many millions of dollars have been spent to look at cats in disco outfits?
Correct. Well,
Right, and that's a waste. That's a waste. That's a
yeah,
real waste of time. Right. Let's
yeah,
be honest.
exactly.
Another quick shout out to Contextual IO. Thank you for sponsoring this episode. Again, Contextual delivers really great AI ROI for businesses of all sizes. They do this through workflow orchestration, automation platform, pre-built solution patterns, and most importantly, their expertise in taking proof of concepts and scaling them to production. Let's head back to the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody who's used imagery generation from Gen AI, recognizes it doesn't spell things right. It messes up words and stuff. You're not going to create your next advertisement, just with using one of the standard models and say, oh, this is what I want it to look like. It'll look at 80%, great, but there's going to be the 20% that you wouldn't put out there in the world. So I think it's about finding the project that that does matter. And for us, there remains a human in the loop element here that is part of the project. The human in the loop might be a new interface, or it might be a new way that the humans are policing or managing or responding to escalations from these AI tools. I think too often people think, oh, this is going to be great. It's going to all go away. And then you get one or two problems, which is going to be true in any, system or process. And they lose faith. And that's partly because they didn't have the strategy around what is the fallout mechanism? How does the human interact with this? What overrides need to exist?
So this goes back to what we learned in rapid application development to deployment from the 90s, right? In the
Yeah.
dot-com boom. Do you think all those things that we learned really do still apply? Because it seems to me like things are moving so much faster than they did in the 90s. We haven't hit the 3-year birthday of Gen AI being
Yeah.
unleashed on the world. That's
Yeah.
November 30th of this year is year 3.
Yeah.
And we've got several multi-hundred billion dollar companies that have been formed in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
This is moving
Unbelievable.
super fast.
Right.
So
Yeah.
do I
And
have
some,
time?
yeah, I mean, so I mean, clearly, as you look at the revenue multiples might be excessive in certain companies, but
Oh,
tabling
you
that,
think?
you
Yeah.
know, some of you look at the Cursors of the world where they're over $100 million in ARR. Our engineers use products like that all the time. There's no question that they're adding significant value. And they deserve to exist, and they deserve to be valued exceptionally high. I think the projects that you see failing, again, it might be what was the rollout strategy, what was the supporting strategy. What I don't think is the right answer right now is wait. When we work with clients, we're always seeking can you carve off one employee to start down this path to be the person who's interacting with this AI most aggressively and giving feedback. And by the way, that person then is going to become an advocate. They're going to become the individual in the organization that's the cheerleader of this. And then then you grow that way. I think some of the projects that get canceled and you have such this failure rate are, maybe the eyes were bigger than the stomach in terms of the scope of what they were trying to take on, the expectation. And number two is they did a rollout where you caused consternation and fear amongst the individuals who are going to have to be participants with this. And as a result, resistance came up. And, anybody who's gone through organizational change, if employees are resistant, it's not going to work. You're going to suffer. Yeah.
But well, here's, I just had an interview with the CEO of FreePix,
Mhm.
right? One of the largest free downloading stock image sites in the world.
Yep.
Can you imagine what Dolly has done to them?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Terrifying,
he pivoted.
right?
Yeah, he pivoted.
Yeah.
He had to. And I thought it was fascinating because his employees were like, looking to him like, our job's going to be safe. So
Yeah.
for them, they did an incredible pivot, by the way, right? Because they're mixing stock images and generated images and meshing them. It's pretty brilliant what they did,
That's awesome.
right?
Yeah.
And they focused not on image creation, but on what they're really good at. So, how, as an executive, do you help your organization do the same? Is the big question I have.
Yeah.
Is because you can't stand still.
Yeah.
Even if your employees want to and they're worried about their jobs, if you stand still, you die. In this case, you
Yeah.
perish. I
Yeah.
guess perish is a better word, right?
I am I'm a pretty big technology optimist generally, and I don't believe that technology looking looking back to the looms and the Luddites has actually ever caused mass job extinction. Right? New opportunities emerge, new roles emerge. Um, Generally, when where we see the best advocacy, and we tend to focus on middle market companies, so take that with whatever grain it represents, but we see these opportunities where you have individuals who are doing you kind of very rote repeat, not terribly value add. They don't feel great about it work. It's that they don't feel like geniuses doing
They're
receiving,
pushing paper around.
pushing paper around, keying
Yeah.
stuff in, categorizing stuff. They don't feel great about it because it doesn't represent kind of where the value that they believe they could bring to the organization is. And so, we seek those opportunities to say, if we took this burden away, how would those roles and resources change? Would you offer new products to your customers? Would you be higher touch with a customer in a way that actually causes them to buy more, to expand services? And invariably, people want to do creative human things. And of course, LLMs can do creative things. Like I said, haiku about pickles
Yeah.
is totally achievable, but humans want to do that as well. It's our nature. We don't want to do rote and repetitive work. And those are some of the things that we can, hopefully shift.
So this brings up another problem that I've seen, right? I see some CEOs that don't think like you, where, hey, how can I free up some of my people's time so that they can focus on more value added
Sure.
to grow my company?
Yeah.
Instead, I see CFOs taking lead on this, saying, we're going to cut
Cut,
costs.
cut. Yeah. I mean, obviously,
Cut,
what was
cut,
it?
cut.
9,000,
Right.
9,000 Microsoft employees that were cut. And, there's a big question. Is that driven by AI? And so, to be clear, I'm not, I do believe there will be job loss and then job gain, and there will be transition, and that, pain will happen with that. And I don't want to be not empathetic to any individual who is impacted by this. I will say, if you're looking as a company and you look at these AI first organizations that have millions of dollars of revenue per employee and amazing multiples as a result, they didn't get there just by cutting costs. And I don't think your average organization, you can only grow EBITDA so much by cutting costs. You have to grow the top line. And one of the phrases we use is take ground. Like, how can you use AI to take ground?
You
New
take ground. I
services,
like that.
new offerings. That possibility exists right now, where people can say, "Oh, I'm entering a new market that I wouldn't have thought I could because I have unique expertise coupled with AI for efficiency gives me the opportunity to bring this new capability out."
So this is interesting to me because I'm thinking of some old companies. I work for Intel, right?
Mhm.
Intel's going through a massive
For
restructuring
sure.
right now. How can we use AI to take more ground? That is something I'm glad you brought up because our CEO is talking about AI. But we do have to restructure. I've
Sure.
noticed in especially large companies. I also do a lot of work with government. When the bureaucracy gets in the way, they can't they can't move. And
Yeah.
so when you get Gen AI that comes in from the side, it just bogs down even worse, is
Yeah.
what I've seen.
Yeah, and I think you're hitting on something that I've been thinking about, and our organization thinks about, which is where does AI live in an organization? We would classically say AI is not an IT project. This is not an IT thing. Um, uh, because it has kind of transformative impact across different
across
organizations,
everything.
different
Yeah.
disciplines, across everything. Kind of sits, people, process, technology, AI. Maybe it's like a fourth pillar of organizational success. And I think you got to kind of look at where the bog downs are. Is it because it's stuck in IT and there is their backlog of projects is pretty high. IT is not one of those, like, if you do an exceptionally good job, people are
They don't know
good.
you
That's
exist.
we expect that. It's like dial tone, right? You do expect. Well, I mean, I guess people don't have dial tone anymore,
No,
but
they
when
don't
they
have doubt.
did,
But
yeah, yeah,
you were absolutely right, Andrew. When I was a CIO, my ultimate goal was no one knew that we were there,
correct,
right?
exactly,
But
and
that
that's
was not the
impossible.
case.
Yeah, and it's impossible for AI right now because it is going to do some unexpected things, and there's a lot of concern around what data it has to have access to be effective. And so I think, if it enters through that organization, you get some barriers, you get some delays. At the same time, if it enters through, a sales organization or a product organization, there is concerns about security and where's my data going and what protections do I have. And
Right.
so there's a lot of fear that, and fear is paralyzing for any organization. It's always the case.
And I have seen that. In fact, that's what I based my career on is a change agent. My
Right.
first book
Yeah.
was Secrets of the Change Agent, right?
Yep.
And fear is paralyzing. And I've seen it not just with Gen AI, I saw it with the cloud movement.
For sure. Right.
Yep, I've seen it in several of those types of movements. Containerization did the same thing. It's
Yep.
paralyzed people. I don't know what to, because I don't want to make a mistake. So, what
Yep.
would your advice be to those organizations that don't want to make a mistake?
Yeah. I mean, this is where it comes back. Uh, we certainly counsel. How can you narrowly define a task, function, or process that is, where you can understand? It's got a standard operating procedure enough, right? It can be documented, it can be understood. The data flowing through it is semi-transactional. The You can put a human in the loop to observe it and watch it, and you can do kind of a staged rollout in a way that is, that is powerful. We work with a customs brokerage firm, and they process something that are basically importer security filings, ISFs. It's what you have to file with U.S. Customs to bring a container on a
Right,
ship into the United States. Um, and the challenge for them is, a million different customers, a million different ways that their customers send them this
right.
information, right? Okay, well, can AI help with that? Can it standardize it? Can it ingest it? Can it automate the processing of it? Yes. Okay, let's start with, importer A, who has a fixed scope and we can watch it and they're going to be good participants. Oh, great, that's working. Let's go to B, C, D, and then, you grow from there. And I think that kind of, uh, um, the ability they can measure the ROI impact because they know how much they were paying to manually process these, and they can see what the automation is. So the calculation of impact is easy to do. B, they can control the scope of it as it rolls out in a way that gets them comfortable. And C, like I said before, that the person who's managing client A who's now using it is suddenly a cheerleader of, this is making my life easier, my job easier. I'm able to focus on the things I'd like to focus on, which is, helping my clients with sourcing decisions or whatever that might be. And, they could become a provider of health certifications for local products, whatever that is. That's the transition that we see working well, and how people get over the fear.
So I love that approach because, and I think the first step, the approach you've already mentioned, get started,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
You
Right.
got to do something. You can't just sit
Yeah.
there. But I
Yeah.
like how you mentioned that the human is still the most important part of this whole process. That you can't
Certainly
just
for
get
right now.
rid of
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
right?
I think I might have written a blog post about this. I can't remember. I certainly have an opinion about it. But, entering 2025, anybody who was paying attention to this space was like, oh, all the hype is around agentic AI, and the whole point of agentic AI is it's independent acting. It can take autonomous action and make decisions, and
It's
it's easy to think
still
about it.
still not great.
Right. I mean, it's easy to think about examples where it's like, oh, I am complaining to chatbot, and agentic AI is saying, fine, I'm going to refund your money. Right? Fine, I'm going to refund your money. Um, so that's autonomy. You've got some agentic decision making happening in there. Maybe it gets on a roll and just refunds everybody's money. That's a fast path to people being not happy with the thing that they just put out into the world. And so, I think there's levels of autonomy, but the human in the loop really matters still. And if we think of it as like, how do you you've heard of like the 10x developer? How do you 10x any employee with this as an enabling tool and capability set?
I love how you said that. There's a term that's being coined right now. I work with a bunch of professors because I teach at Vanderbilt University as well, and we're coming up with this term called the augmented, which
There you
I
go.
love this word because it's like
Yeah.
I know AI and I know my field, and it
Yep.
makes me 10 times more effective because
There
I'm
you go.
not doing minutia. I am now directing. I'm being augmented by these AIs, so I get more work done and more rewarding for me
Absolutely.
personally. Andrew, if people want to find out more about you and your company and things like that, where do they go?
So we are contextual.io. There is also a contextual.ai founded by a gentleman who actually invented something called RAG, which is a big part of AI. And so a friend of mine, but we're contextual.io. And the reason that is the name, may have heard of something called a context window. And that is basically how much information can the AI have to take action on? We are big believers that coming back to getting into the sausage making of making these solutions work is if you give AI a ton of context and ask it to do a lot of things, you might be inviting what they call hallucinations or unexpected answers, right? And so we think heavily around how do you break it down in the same way you wouldn't give you wouldn't necessarily give a human here's a
Too
million
much.
documents and here's too much of a task. You break it down into individual tasks. That's why ticketing systems and task management exist for humans, is we need kind of that segmented set of work. And the same is true with AI systems as we see them be successful. Is how do you break down the context and the context window that you're giving it to the task that you want done? And oftentimes, then a system is 5 steps. It's 6 steps. It's not just one
Right.
big step.
It's
Yeah.
well, and I think you hit that. I love how you said that because I've noticed the same thing. A lot of people are like, if I write my prompt big enough, it'll do everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you might be engaging in counterproductive
Yes, you're
activity,
wasting
right?
time. Yeah.
You might actually be causing more harm. And there's obviously there's skill to that. There's testing to that. It's interesting with AI, the concept of an AI systems, the concept of traditional test harnesses might change, right? A test
Yeah,
harness
yeah.
for software might be, we're going to inject all these different test cases, and it better get to the word blue at the end. That's the answer, no matter what. But maybe topaz is an acceptable answer from an AI standpoint, and so how the AI systems result in an acceptable outcome is a different way of testing. And the more narrow the task, the better you're able to, put some throttling around that and put some
So
controls around that.
you come in with your team because you guys are great. Context engineers is the new term du
There
jour.
you go.
It used to be
Yeah.
prompt engineering. Now it's context engineering.
There you go.
So you guys understand how LLMs behave based off of context and constraining. So if people are trying to automate back office and do automated agentic tasks, they give you guys a call. You help build up those agents with context around that, and that's one of your strengths. That's your superpower for your company?
Yeah, I think organizationally that is we have kind of two sides to us. We do have a platform, which would be classically considered an AI orchestration platform. It's a low code visual platform, so you're dragging and dropping little nodes on a palette, and we have a set of templates that we think help accelerate most of these challenges. Just taking as an example, can I use AI to do document extraction? Well, if you give ChatGPT an invoice and tell it to give you the invoice amount and some of the line items, it'll probably do a good job. If you give it that 2,000 different variants of invoices with information all over, it's going to fail at a certain rate. Document prep, staging that, assessment of quality of the document, that's part of what we have in our platform that then makes our ability to provide, context engineering faster and easier. And so we do both of those. We bring our platform to play where we think it makes us fast, and our knowledge to play where we know it makes us experts. So
this is awesome. I think you hit a sweet spot in this emerging technology. I can't even call it emerging anymore. It seems like it's so old.
Right.
But,
yes.
But it's not. It's only 3 years old. It's so young still. It'll be an interesting decade for sure. A 2020 decade will be starting with a black swan event followed up by a industrial revolution that we haven't seen since the industrial revolution in the late 1800s.
It's fascinating right now. I think. I have a son who's about to be a senior in college, and he was working on something, and I was like, well, have you tried, one of the different models to get this done? He's like, we're not really supposed to use AI. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, that feels counterproductive to what, like, there's no scenario where you're going to enter the job force where you would not be doing
where
that.
You're not going to be used. And you know what? And I've been talking to my fellow professors about that exact thing. There's a huge shift in higher education. We've got to train people to think critically and to get the mundane stuff being done by Gen AI. I totally agree. So
it's interesting. We do a lot, and I would encourage all companies to do this. An employee will have a dialogue with an AI agent to do discovery about a topic or theorize how to approach something or how to solve something, and we share those threads quite a bit within our organization, where the mandate is to read the thread, like see the thought that went into it, see the thinking and the kind of constructive process that your colleague went through. It will then get you to an answer, but it's not just the answer. We want people to come along with the reasoning, and I think that's important. Is you have to be willing to. It's not just ask, answer. Sometimes it's ask, answer, clarify, dig deeper. What about this?
No, I like what you're saying there. Yeah, that's awesome.
It helps. It helps.
Hey, Andrew, thanks for coming on the show. This has been wonderful.
Absolutely.
And I get to talk to one of the super world marathoners.
Well,
you're crazy, first off, Andrew. Crazy.
There were certainly many folks who were faster than I was during that trip, but I got it done. That's the important thing. So.
I could probably do a marathon on a bike, but not running.
An e-bike as well. So
an e-bike, yes, an e-bike. Yeah.
There you go. Well, no, this was great. I appreciate being on, and I look forward to talking more.
Sounds great. Thanks, Andrew.
All right. See ya.
Thank you for listening to Embracing Digital Transformation today. If you enjoyed our podcast, give it 5 stars on your favorite podcasting site or YouTube channel. You can find out more information about Embracing Digital Transformation at embracingdigital.org. Until next time, go out and embrace the digital revolution.